The Odyssey was written in 8th century BC. Romeo and Juliet, 1597. Great Gatsby, 1924. Of Mice and Men, 1937. Fahrenheit 451, 1953. A Raisin in the Sun, 1957. To Kill a Mockingbird, 1960. All of the books we've read in our high school English classes so far were written 60 years ago or more. But the problem with reading books written by authors who were dead before we were even born is that they don't write about topics. They might not have even known about topics that are relevant in our lives today. None of these books cover gun violence, abuse, cyberbullying, mental illness, sex and pregnancy, drugs and violence, and these are just a few of the challenges we see in our schools every day. Schools want us to learn from the books they make us read, but how am I supposed to learn if I don't relate to anything I'm reading about? How am I supposed to connect if that's not what I was supposed to say? How am I supposed to want to read these books if I can't connect with any of the characters? We're censored from topics that schools find inappropriate, like sex, drugs, and foul language. But sterilizing our classrooms isn't going to prepare us for the real world. Newsflash. We know what sex is, and we know people who do drugs and hear foul language in our hallways every day. We can learn about these topics by reading about them in a controlled environment. We need to read books like Crank. Crank is a poetry book written in 2004. It follows a girl as she discovers crystal meth and it leads her into a dangerous world of sex and drugs. The book is graphic, yes, but many reviews say that it scared the readers from ever wanting to try drugs. And wouldn't schools rather have us be too scared to start drugs than to just try because we're curious? Schools like to think that we live sheltered, perfect lives, but that's just not the case. They restrict our learning to keep the illusion that we're all shining poster children. But we need books with real characters facing real issues if they want us to relate. We need books like Looks. Looks was written in 2008. It follows two girls, one struggling with anorexia and the other struggling with binge eating disorder, and their unlikely friendship. It may seem like a book that doesn't belong in the classroom because it can make students uncomfortable, but in reality, it opens a necessary conversation in a controlled environment. Many of the books we're reading feature white men, and they don't reflect the world around us, because, hate to break it to you, the world isn't made up of just white men. We subconsciously place ourselves in books and the characters we feel most related to. So for the 70% of the population made up of women and minorities, it's hard to feel as if we have a status in these books. Sorry. When these characters are included, they're often minor characters or characters that are looked down upon. Ladies, I want to read about some strong, independent women. I want to read about girls like Star. In The Hate U Give, written in 2017, Star stands in front of the entire nation to defend her friend who was unfairly killed by the police. When we read books with characters like Star, we feel empowered. That's pretty much it, yeah. Everyone loves empowerment. When we read A Raisin in the Sun earlier this year, we covered racism and discrimination and gender roles in the 1950s. But that's the problem. We read about these topics in the context of the 1950s. So we think, oh, that sucked, but that was the olden days. It doesn't matter anymore. But if we read books like I Am Malala, written in 2013, then we would realize that there is still gender discrimination in our world today. If we read books like All American Boys, written in 2015, this book tackles discrimination by law enforcement in our world today. When we read books with old issues, we feel as if we can't do anything about it because it happened in the past. But when we read books that cover modern issues, it gives us the power to do something about it. So, if we know that teens are more likely to read books when they relate to the characters, why are we still reading books written by old white men? The most simple answer we're given is, it works. But to that I argue, no, it almost works. Sure, we understand the lessons that schools want us to learn, and we memorize the answers for multiple choice questions, and we learn to plug and chug it through analyses. But if my analysis looks exactly like Isaac's and Rachel's and Ben's, And did we really learn anything? Or did we just repeat back to the teacher what they wanted us to learn and then forget about it for the next book? I'm not saying we need to take classics out of the curriculum because they are important. Classics make us better readers and writers. Classics can teach us about the world before us because we know that the world didn't start in 2002. And many of the themes in classics are timeless. But if schools want us to really care about the books we're reading, if they want us to talk about the endings of books in the hallways, like we talk about the ending of movies like Love, Simon, then shouldn't we be reading books that we care about? By teaching modern texts alongside classics, the classroom is no longer just a place where we're taught, it becomes a place where we learn. Thank you.
Nice. Woo!